Welcome back to the Vera House podcast. On today's episode, we talk about a beautiful hike that you should go and take at some point in the Great Falls. It's something that I did last weekend. Highly recommend. We also talked about the recent AMA, which stands for Ask Me Anything, if you didn't know, which is the session that our mayor, Danny Avula, did on Reddit and how that went.
Yeah, it went.
It went. So tune in for that. And we also talked about being a homeowner about 100 years ago in Richmond and what that would have cost you, whether you're a renter or a homeowner. It's definitely a good episode. What else would we talk about?
Yeah, we talked about a bunch of good stuff today. We talked about the Monument 10K, which is coming up pretty soon, and our affiliation / participation in it, and some information on how you can potentially participate in the Monument 10K with us. We also talked about a woman who is only known by legend and Richmond lore, named Edna Frazier, who may have been the craziest prank call-e that we've ever heard about. We also talked about tradesmen, the lack thereof, and maybe how we can build the relationships between people who actually need the trades, like homeowners, and people who actually provide the trades. And how do we potentially rebuild the relationship between those two people? So stay tuned. We get into a lot of good stuff.
Dude, how's your week been?
Week has been good. Busy. Working. Playing. I'm just kidding. Almost no play.
Really?
Just all work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a busy one.
That's how it goes, man. Well, it's Friday. It's like 100 degrees outside.
It is. It's the first 100-degree day in Richmond's history.
Yeah. Happy fake spring. False spring.
Fall spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are definitely in fall spring. It's like low humidity. It's warm, mild, low cloud cover. So it's like
80.
Not too bright outside, but it's nice, man. We were sitting outside on the patio a little bit ago and we started to get a little sweat on. I was like, I don't think I remember the last time I was sweating being outside, even though it was only like last summer. It just feels like it's been a whole lifetime since last June.
Well, we've had to survive a lot in 2025 and early 2026 with the ice storm and the snowstorm and,
water crisis.
Yeah.
All that.
Yep.
Yeah. We have gone through a lot in a little bit of time, and it's only the first week of March, but it feels like we're halfway through this year already.
It does, man. It does. The beginning of this year has flown by.
Yeah.
Flown by. I cannot believe we were just sitting outside at 76 degrees out, but it feels way hotter.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of airflow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it's not a lot of breeze. It's not breezy at all, actually. And then like 2 weeks ago, we were literally just complaining about how cold it was. And then a week before that, we were slipping and sliding on ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. And we probably got snow coming next weekend or something,
Probably. Or a flood.
Yeah. Or a flood. Yeah. Probably a flood. We're due for a flood. I'll be running a half marathon tomorrow. It's going to be 80 degrees outside.
So 80 degrees sounds nice. The half marathon, not so much.
Yeah, fair enough. But when you put them both together.
It sounds awful.
Brilliance. It's beautiful.
No, it sounds terrible. I'm not a runner. I commend anyone who does run the marathons. The most running I'll do is from my car to my front door when it's raining outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I ran this same one last year and the weather was like a little bit chillier. I actually started with a sweatshirt on. So it was much chillier this time last year, this exact date last year than it is this year. Because no doubt tomorrow I'll either run it in a tank top or like literally no shirt. Yeah. Because it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
And normally running is better when it's a little bit chillier outside because like you work up body heat and then you're good.
Yeah.
So like I ran the half marathon last year in a t-shirt and I don't even think I really broke a sweat just because the temperature was like right. You know what I mean? Not that I didn't break a sweat because it wasn't hard. It was hard. But it was just like the right temperature to where you're not really overheated.
Yeah.
But tomorrow will be a different story.
I mean, again, props where they're due. You won't catch me outside running in a marathon, a half marathon, a 4K, a 2K, a 1K, any of the Ks. I'm good.
Yeah.
I will gladly sit on the sidelines and cheer you on as you run by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a lot more to talk about in the coming weeks about this, but as a quick heads up for everybody, we are going to be putting together a Monument 10K team.
That is true.
And so if you're listening to this, it's already set up. You can use the promo code Vera House to sign up for the Monument 10K for a collab between us and sports backers.
Yeah.
And when you join, look for the Vera House team and be sure to join the team, and we'll give you the details very soon on what that means. So join our team, sign up for the Monument 10K, use the promo code Vera House. And when you do so, you'll be getting a free t-shirt, and we'll have some other fun details and stuff. And yeah, come hang out with us and come run or walk the Monument 10K. You don't have to run it. Thousands of people walk it.
Thank God.
It's a very walking friendly event. So either way, come and run it with me, come and walk it with Perri, come hang out with Vera House, have a good time. But yeah, man, running, it's a good time.
And I was just talking to a friend of ours. I used to run. I was a runner in high school, ran track.
What did you run?
I was a sprinter, so I didn't run like the long distance.
Yeah.
Ks, any of the Ks. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I did 100 meter, 200 meter, and the long jump and triple jump.
Nice.
So I was booking it, man. But that after my race was over, I put on my sweats and I watched everybody else run for hours. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like the way to go.
It was the way to go.
Yeah.
You know, you get all the acclaim of being a sprinter, but you only have to run like 3 races.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the training was brutal.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed the training, and I enjoyed watching the results or seeing the results of my training. My times would go down consistently if I was consistent with the training, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I like cycling because it's a little more like explosive. Like, even though I run, I'm really not a runner. I don't enjoy it all that much. Honestly, it's just easier than cycling a lot of the times. Like, if you're going to go on a bike ride, like, you don't go on a 30-minute bike ride, but you could go on a 30-minute run.
Yeah.
Right. At least I don't go on a 30-minute bike ride. If I'm getting on the bike, I want to be out there for minimum hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not something you just like do on a quick lunch break or something, you know? So I started to fit in running because I had the cardio and the fitness to do it, but it's just an easier way to like get outside and like get that outside adrenaline going on, especially when the weather's nice. Mm-hmm. And it's a much lower commitment than going on a bike ride. Like a bike ride, you got to get your whole get up on and like check your tire pressure and like do all that. Running, I can put on some sunglasses and some sneakers and just head out the door.
Or you could do like, I feel like most people do, is skip all the getting on your gear and prepping the bike. Get on your bike and go for a ride. I've been on a bike ride with you, so I know what it entails. You can go on a 30-minute bike ride if you want.
Yeah.
It takes you 30 minutes to get to the bottom and probably halfway back. That's where I would usually feel, perfectly comfortable sitting as opposed to running. Yeah. And you mentioned that you like running more than you like riding your bike. To me, that's backwards.
Yeah.
I don't like running at all. I can do it, and I have done it in the past. I've even started to try and do it more now because I know it's good for you. But man, I much prefer riding a bike.
Yeah.
You get to sit down, but you still get that cardio, that zone 2, especially if I'm, going on a ride with you.
Yeah.
We're getting after it. But there's I wouldn't say there's no need. For me, I could split the difference. I can do most of my rides 30 minutes, call it an hour maybe, and be fine. And then every now and then I'm doing like an hour and a half. We're booking it through the fields or through the backwoods or the trails or, going off of ramps and flying in helicopters or whatever else we get into. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah. Well, I prefer to be on the bike. It's just a little bit more of like a commitment, at least in my, like where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going out on the bike, it's not a quick thing. It's like, I want to be out there for a while, it's like, I want to ride at least 20 miles and like get into it, whereas like running, just run around the block and whatever,
Right.
Yeah. And I just like being outside, man. This past weekend I was up in DC. I went to see Matt Rife. Mm-hmm. So see the comedian live at Capital One Arena up in DC. Yeah. That was cool. Totally sold out. It was like 20,000 people there. And Monday morning it was snowing. So it's snowing Monday morning. I headed to Great Falls State Park. It's like 30 minutes outside of DC. And I had never been there before. So this is in Virginia. It's within the state lines. It's a state park. I drive in there. The ranger at the booth is looking at me like, what are you doing here? Because it's literally like a blizzard. You know, it's like the snow's coming down.
You're the only one.
Literally, there was no one. My truck was the only truck in the parking lot. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
But I had the entire state park to myself for like 4 hours, and I went and hiked the river trail and what's called Difficult Run at Great Falls. And it was insane. Like, it was insane. I've been on a lot of hikes, a lot of runs, a lot of bike rides. The scenery was crazy. So if people have never been to Great Falls, I highly recommend it. Yeah. It's amazing just by itself, but when it was snowing and nobody there, I felt like I was on another planet. Like,
I bet you the ranger was like, I was about to go home, and here comes this guy, and I got to sit here and wait for him to call 911 because it's snowing. He's going to slip and bust his ass.
I'm sure the thought, that exact thought.
He's like, all right, let me just get the paramedics on speed dial.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the like terrain.
That does look pretty sweet. Like,
it's pretty sick.
I saw the videos you posted, and I'm not a hiker, but it looked like the scenery looks jealous. And the thing is, man, I know to get to those places, you have to hike. But that's like the barrier for entry to me. Is like, I don't want to have to go all the way there. I just want to like show up at the park, and it's like right on the edge of where I get into the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet though.
I mean, like, to me, like the terrain, it just looks like the landscape was crazy.
That's the thing, man. And that's what, an hour and 2 hours up the road?
Yeah. It would be like an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours from here, from Richmond.
That's another one of the like really redeeming qualities of living here, man, is just you're no more than a couple hours away from like a really incredible hike, a really scenic location. There's so many that people that like myself that have been here like a lifetime haven't even been to. I've never been to Great Falls.
Yeah, I hadn't either, man, but I would definitely go back. And
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of a similar view, but it was fun, man. I went up there, like, took some crazy pictures. It was super cool.
You got your who am I thinking of? He like directed The Dark Knight. You got like your Chris Nolan. You got your Chris Nolan vibe going on right there.
Definitely. It was pretty sweet. It was a lot of fun. Really cool views. And
like I said, like the videos look cool. I'm not a hiker, but I'm like,
it makes you want to do it, right?
I need some boots.
Yeah. I mean, you know, on a more like, you know, like we're both similar, right? We're both like solo guys, live alone, you know, building our own businesses. Like, you know, it can be a very like isolating experience sometimes. Yeah. And so you would think like doing that would also be very isolating, which like in a way it is, but it's like a whole different experience, you know? Many years ago, like I wasn't interested in any of these things, like running, cycling, hiking, all this like outdoor adventure type stuff. Like I never really pictured myself as that type of person. Mm-hmm. But I will say cycling is what kind of started it for me. And then you just really remember how much you love being outside as a kid. You know, it's like, you know, especially for us, like growing up in the 90s, you know, it's like you're just out. Yeah, it's all you do. You just like go outside, you just like play all day. You're running around in the woods, like riding skateboards or whatever with, you know, your friends or whatever's going on, you know, and your parents just say, you know, they'll whistle or call you and be like, all right, dinner's ready, you know, and that's it.
Yeah, you're out in the woods, you're up to no good with your buddies, you're walking, you know, every week you go out with your friends, you're walking a little further away, trying to test the leash, how far you can get away from your house before you get in trouble. Yeah. You don't tell your mom where you were because if she found out, she'd crack the whip. But then, you know, you meet up, you make a plan. It's like, all right, we're going to go out to the creek. Like in my neighborhood, I lived out in Henrico, and we lived in a subdivision, but it wasn't so far removed from like nature, which is kind of why I liked living out there. Like we lived in a neighborhood with, you know, a lot of similar like ranch style homes, like the 1-story homes, but it was like in a heavily wooded neighborhood, which is a lot of Henrico and Glen Allen and Chesterfield is the neighborhoods are like in the woods essentially. So you could walk 10 minutes down the street and into just a wooded area in between some houses and find a creek. So me and my boys, we just meet up after we're done playing video games, get on the bicycles and ride out to the creek and just hang out at the creek. Yep. Playing with the salamanders and, you know, squeezing frogs and shit like that. Just doing dumb stuff that you do in the woods.
Yeah. 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 No, same. I remember like one year, me and my like couple neighbor friends when I was a kid, we like took one of the sheds in the backyard that was like full of stuff. And it was never really used all that much, but we just like cleared everything out of it and like turned it into our clubhouse. And my parents were pissed. They're like, cause we just like moved to the lawnmower and just pulled it all out and like left it in the yard. But anyway, I think like, you know, at the end of the day, we're adults, but like, we're all just kids, you know, we're all just kids grown up. And it's interesting as I got more into like just being outdoors, I was like, dude, I love this. And then just started to pick up on it. And yeah, either that or I'm just getting old. Now it's like, oh, let's hike and look at birds.
I mean, it's both.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned it, we're kids that are just getting older.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to someone who's in the later years in their life, 60, 70, 80, 90 even. Most of them will say that they don't feel their age. They feel as if they are still 40, 38, late 40s, mid 40s, late 30s, mid 40s, because that's when, you know, you really turned into like the grown version of yourself. Like I think I went on a little bit about it on a couple episodes back, but like the late 30s, mid 40s, I turned 40 last June. You definitely start to feel like, dang, I'm a grown up now. As where like maybe 5 years ago, I was definitely still like really immature and I've matured some more, but you still like the same stuff that you did when you were like 20, when you were 15, you know, you could probably grow out of some like, you know, childish tendencies, but you still like the same things. Like I like cars and I like anime and I like movies and I like, you know, fashion and like clothes and stuff like that. I don't feel like I'm going to grow out of those things. They might morph and change, but you talk to somebody who's in their 70s, 80s, they still like that stuff. They still watch it on TV. They still look it up on the internet. Maybe they can't participate in all of it, but that's still something that they feel passionate about. Totally.
Yeah. One of those things for me is music. Like, and I know that's true for you as well, but like music, like, dude, I could sit in my office and listen to music for like a week, you know, and be totally fine. Do nothing else. Like that's it. And I'd be totally fine with that. And yeah, the outdoor stuff has kind of like brought that up. But you know what makes me think about this, where you can really see that like adults are really just like children, is if you ever find those videos of these sort of like middle-aged Karen type people, and they just happen to be caught in like a bad moment where they're like freaking out about some stupid little thing, where they're like, you know, it'll be literally like some middle-aged woman and they'll be harassing someone saying like, you know, don't speed on my road, or like, you know, don't, you know, put your grocery cart back, or like whatever. And they're just being, you know, what would be considered a Karen. And especially when you see them, I would say like above the age of 50, right? And you'll have like a young person, maybe it's somebody Gen Z or like whatever, and they're like filming this person being a Karen. And then they start running at the person with the camera. And for me, I just can't help but like imagine that person as like a young person, right? And it's like you can see their personality. Like you just see, it's like that's like them in adult form is actually the same as them as like an 11-year-old.
They're throwing a tantrum.
Yes, it's like the same exact thing.
Yeah, it's like when you were a kid and you didn't get your way, you didn't know what to do and you had no like recourse, so to speak. You couldn't fight anybody. You couldn't pay someone because you didn't have any money. You couldn't run anywhere because you didn't have anywhere to go. You couldn't tell your mom because she didn't care. You couldn't you get your friend to do it for you because you didn't have any friends or whatever. And you're just like, like the frustration has nowhere to go. So that's what you see. And like the Karens are like, and they're like, it's unfortunate that now everything you do just gets filmed and put on somebody's Instagram. But it's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. Or like, did you see the one where, and this wasn't even an old person, it was like somebody like our age or maybe even a little bit younger, the girl that's screaming at the cops, like she's in her car and she sounds like a metal singer. Like she's screaming so loud and she's like yelling about how the police wasn't wearing his seatbelt or something. And she's just, if you haven't seen it, dude, it's like gotta be one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, this person is an 8-year-old in a 35-year-old's body. You know?
And you think you would think that like at a certain age, you like grow out of doing stuff like that. I don't think you grow out of it. I think you learn from your mistakes or you learn from your experiences and you realize to get what you want, maybe that's not the best way. But you got to do it a few times to figure that out. You got to bump your head and then you'll learn the lesson.
Well, and not to get too philosophical with it, but I actually really love this concept, which do you know who Carl Jung is?
Yeah.
So, there's all these like Jungians and Jungian psychology and stuff, but there's a really great book called, I think it's King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Mm-hmm. And it talks, and this applies to both men and women, but it talks about these psychological archetypes and how, most people, right? And I think this is pretty normal and fair to say that like most people don't fulfill all of their kind of like personal archetypes, right? So let's say, and the book is basically arguing these components, right? So king, warrior, magician, lover. And of course, Jungian psychology is focused very heavily on the male psyche, but you could apply it to women as well. But that book in particular is about the male psyche. And it paints this picture of these different archetypes, right? So like the king archetype, the warrior archetype, the lover, and the magician. And for example, they use the example of Joffrey in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And right. So like,
I hated that guy.
Exactly. Everybody does, and that's why he can't even get another role now is because like everyone just sees him as Joffrey, right? It's like it's the Harry Potter effect.
Yeah.
Or the Frodo effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody sees him as that character. But so he basically plays the character of what's called the high chair tyrant. Right. So he's a king, but he's really like a baby in a high chair, and it comes back to this thing of like, and we actually talked about this over lunch a little bit, where if you have to tell people you're the king,
you're not the king.
You might not be the king,
I actually think that there's a line in Game of Thrones that is similar to that.
Probably.
Like someone, maybe I'm making this up, but like an elder is trying to instill wisdom.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't get people to believe that you are a king and sitting in your power by forcing them to believe it.
Yeah, I think it's like Tywin Lannister. Yeah, he says something like, because that's basically his like grandfather, right? Or
right.
Something. Yeah, it's exactly that. So if you think about some of these tantrums that like adults throw, if you think about, any person like in their fullest, right? When they're bothered by something, most likely they would know that throwing a tantrum is not how you get your way or solving the problem. But for whatever reason, that thought just goes right over somebody's head when they're at the grocery store and they think like making a scene is like how you get someone to stop doing whatever you think is, it's just,
it blows my mind.
It's chaos.
And I know that you have to take with what you see on the internet with a grain of salt, because you're only seeing it from one perspective and you're only seeing it at the moment of like its peak. So you're seeing the person losing their temper. You're seeing the person who's filming it like take the role or act as the victim that they're being accosted. We don't know what happened 15, 10 minutes, 20 minutes
ago. And they're
ago.
Probably the protagonist or the antagonist, right?
It goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
But it is funny to see. It's funny and a little sad, in my opinion.
For sure.
To see people, grown adults, talking 40 plus in public, sometimes in the middle of the street, completely lose control. I can say very honestly and clearly that I've only lost like control and like was in a blind rage like once, and I was really young. These people have jobs and families and responsibilities, and they're probably more prone to being pushed over the edge. The edge is probably a little closer. You got a lot of stuff on your plate.
Yeah.
And it's just the wrong day, wrong place, wrong time, wrong day, wrong person. And they're like, 0 Fs are left. I don't care if I end up on the internet. I'm taking you down, or I'm going to try my best to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't have any more options, man. Like you are literally like bubbling over with rage and you have no way to express it other than vibrating and like yelling at somebody.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Dude, it reminds me of it's like a parody video of the guy who's like an internet troll and he's got like 4 computers set up and he's like being interviewed and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I get so much energy out of this. And like someone posts something and then he's replying to it as like, I forget what it is, but he's like, just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you know anything. And he's like, enter. And he's like, haha, she'll love that. And then and then he goes to the next one and he's like, he just says like, what, like, whatever. He's basically just a troll. And it's gotta be like the funniest video. And I wish everyone had seen that because they would realize it's a parody, but that is what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like, there are people that live to just piss you off on the internet.
Buttons.
Yes.
Poke your buttons. You got to go in there with the Zen and just 0 Fs. Don't let them poke your buttons.
Don't feed the mob.
Don't feed the mob, because inevitably you will end up on the internet.
If you've never seen it, it's so good. Like, it's such a great little like parody.
Yeah, and it's an example.
Dude, have you seen this before?
Ways to drain people's energy nowadays is via the internet. This woman is an astrophysicist. Actually, this is not how space works. Read a book. These are all
just zingers
that I have set up. The energy you get this way isn't quite as pure, but if you do enough of it, it'll fill you up. I sucked. Where was the Chinatown?
Oh my gosh.
Strangers completely furious with you. This should be the life.
Who? So
a dumbass, you know you.
Who's?
Called me a dumbass. One of the best ways to.
So that's incredible.
Yes.
So who like they just decided to do this parody? Like it wasn't like an SNL skit or anything?
I don't know. It probably would be like an SNL skit or something. It doesn't really say where it's from. It does look like it's like ripped from something else though.
Yeah.
He's like, as soon as they call you a dumbass, you know you got them. And they called me a dumbass.
That's incredible.
He's like, this woman's an astrophysicist. He's like, actually, this is not how space works. Read a book.
This actually reminds me of like a story I came across pretty recently about like prank calls.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a woman named Edna Frazier?
No.
So I hadn't either. And one of our listeners recommended that we look into it. So they sent us a message about it. And it reminds me of a time before the internet and like when you're a kid and you would prank call people. Do you remember prank calling people?
Of course, yeah.
Man, I did it like occasionally. Like I didn't do it that much. I did it with some friends. You just like call a random phone number, or you would like have a phone number that you were supposed to call.
Yep.
And like, it's interesting when there's like an urban legend and you're really not sure if you participated in it or if you actually heard about it or if you're just like misremembering. But I looked into this and I'm like, I have vague memories of like calling Edna Frazier.
Yeah.
So apparently people called her as the prank phone call, and she was known, and her number was known as this number that you call for pranks. And you call, and the story goes, you call, you talk to her, you give the pleasantries, hello, how are you, what are you doing? And then all you had to say to set her off was Bloody Mary. And then she would start screaming obscenities at you, cursing and talking about like blood and spaghetti and all these like other crazy things. And that's what kids did in like the 90s. They called kids in Richmond. They called Edna Frazier so that she could scream obscenities at them.
Dude, that's awesome.
And like, it's weird. Like, I don't know if I did, but I have this vague memory of like, maybe one of my friends did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm like, remembering Bloody Mary is a thing or was a thing.
Yeah.
So in the late 1990s and 2000s around Richmond, teenagers passed around the phone number that supposedly belonged to a woman named Edna Frazier. Calling that number became a kind of local dare. When someone answered, the person on the other end, believed to be Edna, would often explode in a long, angry, profanity-filled rants. The reactions were so intense and unpredictable that the woman quickly became known among local teens as Crazy Edna or Crazy Lady. The nickname Bloody Mary also came attached to her because callers often used the phrase to trigger a reaction, and many people remembered her yelling bizarre phrases involving blood, spaghetti, ketchup, and graphic imagery. Stories of calls spread across Richmond schools without the internet, just by word of mouth. By the early 2000s, students from completely different parts of the city all seemed to know the same number, and many remember the phone line being completely busy from prank callers trying to get through. People who claim they spoke to her say the calls were chaotic. Sometimes she would answer calmly at first, but once she realized it was a prank call, she would launch into long tirades that people later reported to their friends at school. And this is all like before the internet and like when prank calls were a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I did that.
Yeah.
I think I did that with my friends.
Dude, I wonder if old Edna's still around, you know? We'll have to get her on for a special episode.
I think she has passed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I looked into like this person. Let's see if I can get some information. But there wasn't a lot of info. Very little confirmed information exists about Edna Frazier, the woman believed to be behind the Richmond's crazy Edna prank call legend. What we know mostly comes from shared memories and online discussions. Edna Frazier is believed to have lived in Richmond, possibly somewhere in the North Side area. Some accounts claim that she appeared in an old phone book listing on Edgewood Avenue. Teenagers across Richmond passed around her landline number, which I have here, and I can share it if you want to try it out. That number is 804-329-8708.
Should we call and see if Edna answers?
Give it a call.
Okay, what is it?
804
Uh-huh.
329-8708.
The number you dialed is
It's out of service.
Dang, Edna made sure that her number never lived on after that.
Yeah,
she probably
done.
took enough harassment for the rest of the universe. That's wild. I do remember like making some stupid, silly little prank call. It's like a pretty early memory. I was pretty young, and like me and my neighbors, I remember we like called the like customer support number on like a yogurt box, like a yogurt packet thing. And we called him, and we probably thought we were so funny. We're like, yeah, we found a turd in the yogurt. Like, what do we do?
I think now I'm remembering, I was too scared to do like prank calls. So I would call and then like get really nervous and then like hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Or like say something and like start to prank and then just hang up the phone. But like I had friends that would do it and would do it like way better than I could. But you can't just call a stranger and like be weird and say weird stuff. If you called Edna, you didn't have to do anything. She was going to be the weird, crazy one, which is, I can't imagine being like one of those kids back in the day. I'm like, did you call Edna today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what a bummer. We should see if we can get that phone number, and we'll make that the number for people to call into the show.
Yes. Yes.
That would be pretty legendary, right?
We get Edna Frazier's number. That's going to be the Vera House phone line.
Yeah, and like the legacy lives on, you know? And that's where people will be able to call into the show and pitch their friend.
Yes.
So it's a glimpse into our future Vera House dating show where people call in and pitch their friend, and somebody calls in and says, oh, I have a match for so-and-so.
Let's run it.
Yeah.
Pitch a friend, Vera House edition coming summer 2027.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, we are going to you can text into the show right now. So if you're listening to the show, just go to the show notes description. You'll see a link that says have thoughts, text us here. So you can always text the show anytime you want. But we do think it would be really cool to put something together where people could actually call in and leave voice notes.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, like basically leave a voicemail for the show.
Yeah.
And we definitely, truly want to have that up and running in the next month or two. So that'd be super cool.
Side note, I want to shout out a random listener that I ran into this morning.
Nice.
I was out on a walk around the corner from my house, and as I usually do, I like to go outside, get some sunshine first thing in the morning, get a nice walk in, and I'm rounding the corner. I have my headphones on, listening to music, and I pass by this guy who's like wheeling in some supplies into a business, and I walk by him, and I hear like somebody yell, and he's like, "Hey!" And I turn around, take my headphones off, and says, "Hey, don't you have a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, I love your podcast." I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome. Thank you for listening. My name is Perri. Nice to meet you." His name is Gary. Shout out Gary for saying what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like we forget how small Richmond is, you know? And like doing something like this is like, it makes it very obvious how small of a town it is, you know? Obviously we've been fortunate because many of the stories that we've told and a lot of the things that we've shared have then been shared and passed around amongst everybody we know, you know, and everybody we don't know. It's
pretty cool.
It's cool.
I thoroughly enjoy when people say, you know, we love the podcast, or like say hello. I was at Whole Foods, and this is like when the ice was still like around, but I'd been like mostly cleared up. And I'm coming out of Whole Foods. I'm going to, you know, walk to my car, and this guy's like having trouble backing into a space that was like kind of squished by the mounds of ice that they piled up in the parking lot. So I'm like, "Hey, you know, turn your wheel this way, back it up that way, don't hit the ice." He rolls his window down. He's like, "Love the podcast." It's like, thanks, man. Don't hit the mound.
Maybe we'll have one of those moments. What's that movie director's name? Like Tarantino. Yeah, the most famous director of all time. I don't know if that's true, but you know, Quentin Tarantino, he has that moment where I think he's like leaving a Starbucks, like, you know, this is probably like 20 years ago or some paparazzi like gets in his face and like says something, and he's like, take a picture or something, and he mouths off to him or something. That's going to be you, dude.
Yeah.
The paparazzi, the Richmond paparazzi is going to be following you around.
Paparazzi's coming. They're outside the club every time we leave.
Yeah. You're not even going to be able to get a slice of Zorch pizza, dude. They're going to be hunting you down, putting you in the Richmond tabloids saying like, Perri Young's dating so-and-so.
It's like, I don't even know who that is. Dude, look, if they want to make me famous, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Just keep saying you love the podcast. Keep listening and tuning in. Text the show. All that stuff.
Perri Young's from Vera House is dating Angelina Jolie.
It's like, spread that rumor. That's a rumor I definitely want.
That's a good one. Yeah.
On the Reddit thread.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude.
I am actually dating Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. Dude, who wouldn't be down to be Tomb Raider's husband?
Well, the new Tomb Raider, I think, is Sophie Turner.
Okay.
I think. Somebody's new. There's a new Tomb Raider.
I don't even know who that is. I'll
Sophie Turner, she was in Game of Thrones too.
Okay.
I thought I saw that. New Tomb Raider. You might find it before I do.
Oh, she was in Tomb Raider. I mean, sorry, Game of Thrones. I was like, I didn't recognize her at first, but yeah. Interesting.
It doesn't say. Who's this?
Huh. I can't picture her as Tomb Raider, but whatever.
I mean,
wow, this really shows you how long ago Game of Thrones was.
She's a child.
Right. And now that she's an adult, it's like, you can't even recognize her.
Yeah, Sophie Turner is going to be the new Tomb Raider.
Okay, cool.
Laura Croft, right?
Yeah, well, to be determined. We'll see, see how it goes.
I'd like to edit my answer for the tabloids. I'm dating Sophie Turner.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, I think you got a good shot.
Yeah, man. We have a lot in common. We both have two legs. Both got a couple eyeballs.
That's true.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need, man.
Yeah.
That's all you need to make a good first impression,
Yeah.
And a good pickup line.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know any good pickup lines.
Yeah, I normally just go to like, what are you wearing? If it's like a phone call, but you do it in like a sarcastic manner.
Or
like, so what are you wearing?
You could do like phone call pickup lines, but just do it in person. Like, hello, how are you?
Knock, knock.
What are you wearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've learned that like my humor doesn't transfer well all the time when I'm not like in person. Like I
think that happens for lots of people.
I'm sure.
Right. Sure. Like you think you're funny.
Yeah.
But when you do it via the phone, especially via like text, it just doesn't translate.
Well, I think context is important. Yeah. And I think, maybe people don't know this, but like, I don't take anything seriously ever at all. Like everything is just kind of the world's playground. Like I just don't take things seriously. So I'll make very unserious comments about serious topics. And
people are like, how dare you?
Right.
Like, what do you mean? I don't even know what I said.
Yeah. I just casually drop that like Thanksgiving is fake and people, and like I'm being serious, but I'm also just kind of being funny and it's like whatever. And then you never know who's on the other side of that comment that's just going to like be up in arms and, ready to like burn down the fort.
It's cool, man. We can't please everybody.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can't take a joke. Order it to go. I don't know.
So please don't take my advice or use my pickup line of what are you wearing? Because it probably won't work.
Or do it and then write into the show and tell us how it went.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't explain why it works, but maybe it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
No comment.
No comment.
Oh. Don't try it. And if you do try it and it doesn't work, don't blame me. That's my disclaimer.
There you go. That's the disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's going to get canceled or like put in some Facebook group.
He told me to say this.
It's like, this creep asked me what I was wearing.
It's like, the Vera House podcast gives out terrible dating advice. It's like, well, look at the source.
It's like, why would you ask two single guys about dating advice?
Exactly.
Why would you ask two single podcasters about how to...
Clearly, we're killing it.
Yeah, it's like, whatever we're doing is not working. But even though it's not working, we're on a roll, right? Like if that's the goal is to continue being single.
Yeah. I mean,
we aced it.
I think that's how you win is you just change the goalpost.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, oh, I wanted to be in a relationship and I'm not. It's like, no, I wanted to be single running a podcast studio. Goals achieved.
Yeah. There you go, dude. Yeah. Life is solved.
Done.
You know?
Cash me outside.
Yeah.
I know that's a throwback.
Dude, that's a good throwback. That's a great one. Yeah, you know, who knows? But I mean, forever ago, right? It's like you'd get married, but then you would just die 7 years later. So like, wasn't that big of a deal? You know, you just get typhoid fever and you'd be like, all right, I'm out.
You get Oregon Trail, dysentery.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, dude, back then, people were getting married at 22 because the life expectancy for men was like 30.
Yeah.
36.
Yeah.
You know, making it to 40, you were old. You had a beard, you owned a house, you had a gun. Like that was the thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are living until like late 80s on average. And they get married 4 times, 5 times. You know, that may be an exaggeration, but what's the rush?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're definitely devolving, right? Like,
You think so?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if you look at some of the buildings that people built like 200 years ago,
That's true.
and then like, yeah, or even just look at like a bench and then you go look at the bench on the corner. It's like, I don't think we're moving forward.
It's odd how that's working out.
I think
right?
we're moving backwards.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling because you're like, we have more technology and have made more scientific advancements in the last 5 years than we've made in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's how time works. Science gets easier, so advancements happen faster, more time goes on. But if you were to look at the stuff that we have and the way that like science is being like implemented, something's happening. It's not going to us. We're not getting it because things are getting cheaper to make, but they're also getting cheaply made more often.
Yeah. And they're cheaper to make, but they're more expensive to buy and rent and lease and all of that.
Yeah.
Pop quiz. How much was Richmond rent in 1925? So 100 years ago.
$50.
Okay. So this person found this thing called the Bride's Journal. It's basically like this journal from somebody that was getting married back in 1925. And inside of it, there's an advertisement. And it actually is for a house that's for sale. And the crazy thing is the image of the house, okay, right here. Mm-hmm. This house is in my neighborhood, in the Caroline neighborhood.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So this is like almost like an Italian style, like big A-frame villa that is right on the street where Arts in the Park happens.
Nice.
And beautiful home. It's huge. Okay. So it says no more rent. Own a home for less than half the price. Home ownership is mostly making up one's mind to start. Where there's a will, there's a way to build. So the rent here, okay, is, and it shows if you pay rent per month at $25 per month.
That was close.
Yeah. The total in 10 years is $3,954.
For the whole house?
Yeah. Total in 20 years is $11,035. So basically what it's saying is it's making a comparison of what most people pay in rent, right? And then comparing it over the course of renting for 10 years and 20 years. So it's basically saying, look, if you're going to pay $25 a month in rent, in 10 years, you're going to pay almost $4,000. In 20 years, you're going to pay almost $11,000. And it's going to say, own a home for less than half that. So it's like, why are you renting? You should buy a home, right? So it says, look at the long-term prices. If I took the $25 a month amount for 20 years and divided it, I would get about $919. I don't even think I could get a studio apartment for that anymore, which no, you couldn't, not in Richmond. Now, I don't know what that house has to do with this. I think maybe this is some old school traditional clickbait because I couldn't imagine that house was, $10,000 even 100 years ago is really hard to believe.
It's massive.
This house is like, it's stunning and it's huge.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's actually referring to this home, but yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like we're living in upside down clown world. We're like, everything is made worse. Everything costs more. And actually no one knows how to do anything.
Yeah, man. Expertise is going out the window.
Yeah.
There's, I know if you maybe have seen this, there's a big push for trades specific skilled tradesmen and women because the lack of a generation of people that went to school to learn a trade. So contractors, HVAC professionals, electricians, plumbers, anyone who works with their hands and is a professional and has been trained is in higher demand than they have ever been.
Yeah.
Because over the last 10-ish years, most people didn't want to go to school to be an electrician. They wanted to go to school for any number of, disciplines, philosophy, art, education, mathematics, and then become, skilled in their field. But we know all too well that the majority of those focuses and disciplines in like a regular 4-year university don't yield any real long-term career paths. So people switched from like the trades and like pseudo arts and sciences education to statistics and economics and business. And then they become consultants, or they work for a law firm, or they work in Wall Street, they work in investment banking, because that's the highest yield employee or employer relationship. But then who's going to fix your toilet? Who's going to put a roof on your house?
Yeah.
Who's going to build the house that you live in? There's like a pretty drastic shortage of those people that are skilled enough to do it the right way. Now, the other side of that is like a lot of that stuff is getting easier to do, but somebody's got to do it. You talk about like, AI replacing lots of jobs. No one is saying that a computer is going to be able to rewire your 12-volt outlets.
Right.
No one is going to take, like, your computer is not going to take away the ability for somebody to come in and install a bathroom in your house. So if you're looking for a job and you don't know where to go to a trade school.
Yeah.
You can get hired today, and they will pay you to learn, and you'll make more than most people in a career field that used to pay out more than like an electrician or contractor. I think I saw a post where this guy was interviewing like tradesmen. So it's kind of in the streets, like, hey, you're a contractor. How much do you make a year? You're an electrician. How much do you make a year? Over hundreds of thousands of dollars. These guys are making, and they've been in the field for like 2 years.
Yep. Well, and I fully support that. And I totally agree. I definitely think people should consider that, especially if they maybe don't have a direction, and dude, it doesn't always have to be a forever thing.
Yeah.
It's like, do it for a while, especially if you're, looking for a direction. But one thing I would say is I fully support that. But then if you think of the establishment, right, let's say the world of HVAC, and you have HVACs in there wondering like, oh, I wonder why we have no workers. And I think the answer is pretty obvious, because imagine that you are that person that goes to trade school, you build the skill, and then you're in there and you're making however much money, right? Let's, because I think like 6 figures is maybe a stretch when you're first starting, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you first start, I don't know, call it 50 grand a year, right? But then your job, right? You're a repairs person or an HVAC technician or something, and you're going in and you're realizing that even though you went to trade school, even though you did all that, you're still at the like bottom of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. And really what's happening is that all the money the company is making off of the overpriced equipment that they're selling, and then they're more focused on like financing, right? So you really are just the hard labor, and all the money's being made by everybody else in the company. Yeah. Right. And it's like, oh, you have the salesperson that comes in with a pamphlet and gets to sit in air conditioning all day and like, just comes in with a clipboard, talks to them and sells them like a $17,000 HVAC unit that was manufactured in China and then shipped here. And then you're sold a credit line to pay for it. Right. And now the company just made like half of your yearly salary in 15 minutes, mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, so the guy or girl walks out the door with a, $2,000 commission in 10 minutes. They didn't do any labor. Yeah. Right. And then you're there and you're like, oh, okay, now I have to sit here in a house that doesn't have working AC, sweat my ass off and like install this thing. And I'm gone all day long. And as soon as I'm done here, I got to go to the next house. And the thing is, I think there used to be more, like pride in those types of jobs. Right. And now there's not, because not only have people like lost respect for a craft and a trades work, mm-hmm. but I think also the products that they're installing are lower quality. Like there's not this interaction with the homeowner, so even the consumer is like not in a position to even be grateful for the work, because they're like, dude, I paid 20 grand for this. I just got totally screwed. Right. So they're not necessarily like, oh, thank you so much. Can I get you a lemonade? We just don't live in that world anymore. It's like, okay, cool. I'll be down the street at the coffee shop watching you on my Ring camera, and like, you know, I'll come back home when you leave. You know, it's like we just live in a different world, man. And it's not to discourage people from doing trades jobs, but I think that's why there's maybe a decline in people being interested in it, because it used to be that the tradespeople like wore really nice uniforms and like people looked up to them, and it was like, yeah, they are like the backbone of this country. And it's totally been flipped on its head, where it's like, now it's like, oh, no, thanks. I have a robot vacuum. Don't worry about it. Yeah. It's like, whatever.
I mean, you make a good point, man. And that is the duality of this situation when it comes to trades as a career, and then skilled tradesmen who are in need, because there's always going to be a need for people to build things. For the most part, there's always going to be a need for people to maintain stuff. People will always have to be involved at some degree. And especially as a homeowner, I'm sure you have had your experience with dozens of tradespeople over the course of owning your house, and anyone who has, you know, a similar situation. The decline of customer service and then the decline of respect for the tradesman happens not at the same time, but it is a cause and effect on both sides. The tradesman shows up, does a shitty job, charges you an arm and a leg, and has to come back 2 weeks later because it doesn't work. And then the customer treats the tradesperson like a lesser human because they're crawling around in the mud and their English isn't very good, and they had to pay this guy more money than they wanted, and they're just having an overall crappy experience. So like neither of them like that scenario. So you have two people that both need each other, that both lost complete respect across the board.
Yeah.
And I know that there is an attempt to regain respect from customers. There are companies and tradesmen who are being taught how to engage with customers and clients, to provide really good customer service, to do the job well the first time, to not charge them an overcharged premium. And then on the same token, people are realizing the lack of the amount of skilled tradespeople. There's lots of them, but not all of them are as good as you need, because there have been a slew of really crappy people come through and tarnish the reputation. So eventually the pendulum always swings back the other way. The tradesmen become more reputable by providing better service. The customers become more trusting because they get what they need without being raked over the coals. And that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah. Well, and I think it all comes back to the fact that everything's just overpriced, man. Yeah. You know, and it really, that is the first domino that creates all these issues, is like inflation, and people are maximizing profits over everything else. But I think people do that. The small business owner and the billionaire guy, they're both doing it, which is trying to maximize as much money as they can make, which no shame in that, right? Like, you have to make a living. And if you provide value, you deserve something in exchange for that value. And most times that's something monetary, right? So people pay for it. But the issue is that the more expensive everything becomes, the more incentive there is to screw the consumer, right? And so it's like, oh, we got to charge more. We got to cut costs. We got to cut quality. We got to cut, we got to increase margins. We got to do all this because we have to make more money, or we're going to tank. We're going to go under, right? And who pays that price? Like the average person, the average like consumer, whatever, with an everyday regular job that's just living a normal life, is the person who pays the consequence for that, And then, so it's like, it's like an endless circle. And, the solution is, we have a banking system that feeds on us. It's like everywhere you turn, it's like, hey, would you like some high yield interest? Like, would you like a high credit limit? Would you like a high rate of interest on your credit card? Would you like a loan? Would you like to refinance? Would you like use Karma? Use this, use that. It's all a scam.
It's so interesting and so funny now. You make a good point. I have been looking at making a large purchase, or a large dollar amount purchase between, me and my sister and I were looking to pick something up. And you try to plan for these large purchases, like something like a car, right? You make a plan for that. Something like a house, you make a plan for that. You go to the bank, you talked about your loan criteria, you look at your interest rate, you talk about how much money you're going to put down, so on and so forth. Now you can finance just about everything.
Yep.
And they've made it extremely convenient to finance everything. You can finance anything you buy online, essentially, through Klarna, Affirm, like Cash App has a finance thing. You can finance low ticket dollar items. So something that costs $5, it'll say break it down into payments of $2.50 over the course of 2 weeks. If you want to finance something that's $60, you want to finance something that's $200. And then you can finance things that are more expensive. But what you don't know, or what they don't tell you or make very apparent, is the interest is beyond extremely high. I was doing the numbers on a relatively expensive item. I think the cost was like $2,000, $3,000. And because you want to weigh your options, it's either pay for it with cash, use a credit card, or finance it. I looked at the Affirm financing page for this item, and most people wouldn't, because it takes you to another website and you got to look through it, and here's your interest rates and these are the adjustments and all this kind of stuff. But it's plain text on the website. If you finance this for 36% over the course of 72 months, the final cost would go from $3,000 to $6,000. So you're paying $3,000 in interest if you finance it through this full-term finance. It blew my mind because that number makes it overly abundantly clear that it's a scam.
Right.
You can't ignore $3,000. You can probably ignore another $20, another $50, another $100 tacked onto whatever you're financing. Something's $200, you finance it, it'll be like $75 in interest or whatever. $3,000 in interest for something that costs $3,000. It's a scam.
It's insanity, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The whole banking model.
Keep it in a mattress.
Yeah,
keep your cash in a mattress.
Well, and not to get too off the rails here, but you think about like, okay, well, I'm just not going to participate in that, right? Like whether it's acquiring a business or making any large purchase, but especially when it comes to like something like a home, right? So you think about all of the like core necessities. You could make an argument that you don't need a car, but like if you live in America, especially in the suburbs, like you kind of need a car, right? Like you could live in the city and, I really don't drive that much, right? But I'm fortunate. I work for myself. I can walk here from my house, so I've got the core necessities that I need, but I do have a vehicle, right? But technically in theory, I don't need it. But let's say you're like, okay, well, I don't want a mortgage and I also don't want to rent. I just want to build my own house. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't. You know what I mean? And it's because they'll be like, oh, you can't do that. You can't get a permit for this. You can't do that. This doesn't pass code. And it's like, that's not up to you, dude. If I want to live under a tree, under a towel, I'll do that. Yeah. It's like, so how come a homeless guy can put a tent on the side of the highway? And sure, he's not allowed to do that, right? But no big deal. But as soon as you turn it into like mud bricks and some logs and a roof, all of a sudden they want to come and arrest you. You got
to pay your dues.
Yeah.
Give them a cut.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. It's insanity,
Yeah.
Or it's like, you can't make your own natural water pump to like pump water and filter it yourself and pump it up the hill and get, water into your house. It's like, you can't do that.
You could be like that guy, that young black kid who created plastiline, which is fuel.
Yeah.
That is derived from plastic waste. He's been decades perfecting his process. He is a trained chemist and a scientist, and he built his own machine, bought some machines, bought a lab, and has been creating his own fuel. There was a post saying that he'd gone missing.
Of course.
Because he posted like the first successful running car on plastiline. Mm-hmm. He's fine, but for about a week, people were freaking out thinking he got taken by the NSA.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's what they do is they say, wow, what a brilliant young man. You're going to change the world. They're like, we're going to write you a check today. We'd love to keep you involved in the project, right? And then they say, wonderful. Well, we're going to acquire your patent. That goes in the USPTO. And then poof, then it's gone because it's military. And it's like, okay. And so they take it and use it for the military, use it privately, but it never goes to the mainstream consumer, right? And then he gets paid out, signs an NDA, and they're like, cool, we own you now. Don't talk about this because you can't talk about it. Thanks for your technology. Thanks for the patent. We're going to take it. We're going to use it for this. And it's never going to go to the big companies. And even if it does, they're not going to use it. And if they do, they're just going to triple the price and then blame it on sustainability and eco-friendly and energy wise and all that other stuff. And then if you say no, then you're assassinated. And then they take it anyway.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
That's how it goes.
You know?
You end up like Jim Carrey with a new face after decades of railing against Hollywood and all of the glitz and glamour. And then he shows up on the boardwalk or the red carpet with like 20 years worth of Botox and a whole full head of hair.
Yeah.
Somebody got to him.
Yeah. Or they killed him and cloned him.
That's the running theory, is that he's a clone.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
I haven't really looked into it, but I mean, here, look, because without context, like this, all of it sounds so crazy until you like look into it, right?
Right.
And it's so funny because it's like if we didn't have distractions throughout our life, like I promise, if you didn't have a job and there was no Netflix and there was none of this other stuff, right? You'd have time to look into these things, right? You'd be like, oh, what's MK Ultra? What's that all about? And then you would spend the like 8,000 hours that it takes to learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, wow, that's insane. I can't believe that was all really happening. But instead what happens is you just hear about it. And then like the news or something's like, that's a conspiracy theory. And it's like, well, wait, where does the news come from? And then it's like, oh, wait a sec. Turns out they're the conspiracy theory. Anyway, you get my point. But then you look into it and you're like, basically what I'm getting at is think of the craziest possible reality ever.
Aliens.
And that's what's happening. Like that's what's going on. So it's like, oh, no way that they are like, killed Jim Carrey and then like took his skin cells and made a clone out of him and grew his head in a jar and then fucking sent him out on the red carpet. Dude, they probably did do that. That's probably exactly what happened.
That's the thing, is like, I know that you might be right because anything's possible, but that's so far fetched. It's
right,
like,
it's insane.
It's no way that happened.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, there's no way we knew about Pearl Harbor. We would never let Japan just attack us so that we could enter World War II. It's like, turns out, yeah, we did do that.
See,
look it up.
Look it up. Hashtag look it up.
Do we know about all these things? Like, anyway, we won't get into that. But, dude, on some more local stuff, we got some burning answers. We got some answers to some burning questions lately.
Did we?
So I would say pretty cool. The Richmond mayor, he did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. So basically, like, he made a post, a week ahead of time, and he was like, "All right, we're gonna do an Ask Me Anything during this time period." And I figured we would read through some of the top, like, maybe 3 or 4 questions and answers that they provided, because it does seem that there's some pretty like burning questions that people have. So one of the top ones was this: as more and more high density residential projects are being built, does the city have significant plans to upgrade our public transit to support so many new Richmonders? And here was Danny's answer. So he says, absolutely. The more people that come to Richmond, the more we have to prioritize multimodal development. A major focus of the code refresh effort is to create mixed-use, transit-oriented corridors where residents can easily access stores, restaurants, and other amenities. We will continue to invest in sustaining and expanding the GRTC. So he goes on to say a bunch of other stuff about like the Fulton Rail Yard expansion, the Long Bridge over the Potomac River, train service out of Main Street Station every 30 minutes throughout the day. So he says that there's a lot of good transit stuff coming and that he's super fired up about the future of Richmond.
Super fired up.
And there were questions similar to things that I know that you've mentioned before, which is like bringing back like a Richmond trolley or like rails or like a train, you know? Someone said anything to modernize our city. Now, what it seems is that he basically just provided singular answers to certain questions. You know, there wasn't really a lot of back and forth. You know, it's the political jargon.
Right.
And he was immediately accused of using ChatGPT for these answers. And he immediately accepted that accusal because it was true. That's
incredible.
And I'll read his response to that, and then we'll go through a few more questions.
Oh, Danny.
I know. So what ended up happening is that a huge YouTuber, his name is Louis Rossman, he's got like 2.5 million subscribers. He realized that the Richmond, Virginia mayor was using ChatGPT to write replies, which I use AI all the time. I don't disagree with his comment here, but it's just like, you know, if you're a mayor, you gotta think through these things a little bit, you know. Yeah. It's like you got to know that people are going to catch that and like, you know, say some shit, right? Yeah. So I don't hold it against him. at the end of the day, it's like, he's the mayor. If he's using AI all the time, there's a bunch of information in there about his job and what he does. And it is probably easier to be like, hey, how can I answer this question? So I get it. Not saying it's the right thing to do, but I did think his answer was funny because people thought that his answer to the ChatGPT accusal was also written with ChatGPT.
Of course.
So his response was, first, I freaking love ChatGPT, obviously. And then he said, if you think you're not using AI, but you use Google, then you're likely using it. AI is the present and future of how work gets done. So people need to get on board. Now, there are certainly a host of ethical issues around how it should be used and a lot of thoughtfulness that needs to be applied from a data protection standpoint, but I'm actively working to incorporate more AI usage into City Hall to help our workers be more efficient so they can spend their time doing the important human things that only humans can do, like a social worker providing support to a client. Dude,
what a clapback.
Sign me up for mayor, or at least make me like the PR consultant here. Because I would have been like, look, dude.
And that's on Reddit.
Yes.
I would have been like, Reddit. Stay off Reddit, dude.
I would have been like, look, Mr. Mayor, we need to adjust this answer a little bit,
Jesus.
But anyway, it's like, in almost any scenario, it's like it's like, okay, I think this is what we should do. Just do the opposite.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me what your idea is? And then I'll tell you not to do that, or tell you to do the exact opposite. Whatever you thought, do the exact opposite.
Well, he said any serious organization or leader that is not actively figuring out how to use AI is going to be left behind. And I don't want that to be us. Last year, I approved a city AI policy. It's just, dude, it's the political rigmarole. It's just such garbage. It drives me crazy.
It is. But we also know the dynamics of internet comments.
Yeah.
If somebody calls you out on something, if somebody says anything negative about you, if somebody is trying to bait you into an argument, if you reply, you already lost.
Yeah.
You can't win by trying to clap back from somebody calling you out.
Yeah.
It will never end good for you.
Yeah.
You will always look like the one who's climbing an uphill battle.
Totally.
Just leave it where it lies.
Yep.
Take the L and keep it moving.
Yeah. And I think on this one, as somebody who, I think we both do, but as somebody who I understand what he's saying and I don't disagree with him.
I get it.
Yeah, I do too. But at the same time, it's like, he must know that it's like, you're kind of playing a 50-50 battle, because I don't think anybody would disagree. Yeah, AI is probably helpful, but you said that you dedicated these few hours to answer questions. It's like, just answer the questions.
You're going to dig yourself into your own grave.
Right.
The best response is, thanks for the consideration. I'll look into this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
it. The over explanation makes you look guilty.
Yeah.
Because you did admit it, but then trying to double down and give the context. No one cares. You've already admitted to identifying as what you have been accused of. Sure. You caught me red-handed. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
And I'm a big fan of the big picture thinking.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I don't know if people are thinking about this, but it's like, okay, here's the thing though, dude, is currently the state of Virginia, our city, and I mean, many other states are being accused of increasing their city's power bill to support the AI infrastructure. And then here you are as the mayor of that city standing up for AI, saying, I love AI. I use it all the time. And we're like, yeah, dude, but there's a lot of people that are kind of saying that's the problem.
Yeah.
And now you're basically siding with the issue. And it's like, okay, so you're making an argument for AI.
Yeah.
Right. And you seem to be you literally said you're fired up about it, right? It's like you're pumped about it. So I don't know, man, that's kind of an issue, because now, it's like, dude, we're trying, people are asking questions to Dominion, which same thing. Their statement seems kind of questionable. And it's like, easy for them to say oh yeah, this huge increase in your bill is just due to the weather. And it's like, yeah, dude, I'm sure. But what's going on with these data centers, and why are there so many, and what's happening? And it's like, clearly everybody's talking about it. So you would think if anybody was going to be aware of that conversation, it's going to be the mayor. And it's like, hey, dude, how about you just maybe don't dive into the AI conversation head first, right? But yeah, so anyway, let's dive back into just a couple of the other top questions and see if you can spot the AI jargon. Okay, so we'll just go through a couple. I thought this one was funny. So here's the comment from a Richmond citizen. Bro, there's a giant pothole 6 feet across and 6 feet deep in the middle of the exit onto Perri Street from 195. No warnings, signs, or cones or anything. It's been there for days, and it has surely destroyed numerous cars. Fix it before someone gets hurt. And Danny replied, bro, steer clear.
Wow. I know that pothole.
Right? It's brutal. It's brutal.
There's a cone in it now, but
yeah. He said, bro, steer clear.
Wow.
JK, thanks for pointing this out. Let me figure out if that section is state managed or city managed, and I'll make sure DPW is aware. Always best to report these things to 311 so we have a record and can track it. Now, we've talked about 311 before. I will give credit where credit is due. The 311 app is pretty damn good. I definitely recommend people download it. It's not perfect, and sometimes you'll create a ticket and the city does just like close it out or ignore it. That does happen because I would imagine they're getting hundreds of tickets a day, maybe even more. So I get it. Like a city infrastructure, city bureaucracy, it's never going to be perfect. But I will say I've had a pretty decent experience on the 311 app. So definitely check it out. Next big question was, and someone said 2 days ago, apparently they're doing a pothole blitz in the coming weeks. They are requesting that people notify them through 311 so that they can cover all the potholes. Yeah, so the city's doing a lot to fix things, I think especially as we start to roll into spring. So all good things ahead for Richmond. I think, regardless of the crazy Reddit chaos, right? Maybe don't do an AMA on Reddit. Maybe do it on YouTube. Do like a YouTube live stream.
That would be great.
I think so too.
Yeah. Stay off the internet. Stay off the text threads. Definitely stay off Reddit. Just do a live stream on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to like the internet troll thing that we watched. It's like, dude, the trolls are waiting on Reddit.
Right. And they're waiting for people like him to slip up.
Yes. Yeah. And they're ready. It's a piranha tank, dude.
Yes.
So anyway, we're looking forward to spring. I think it's going to be an amazing rest of 2026. We're pumped about it. Everyone keep their eyes and ears open for information regarding the Monument 10K. We would love for you to join us. So tune in. We'll put the details for that in the description below.
This podcast was recorded at Vera House Studios in Richmond, Virginia, and produced by Perri Young and Myke Metzger.